Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're mapping out something truly mind-bending, a multidimensional spiritual cosmology that's just, well, it's as intricate as it is fascinating. We're unpacking the profound concepts in Chapter 9 of the New Investigation of the Mind, specifically focusing on what the author calls the pinnacle of the mind. You know, whether you're approaching this as philosophy, theology, or, honestly, just a really wild thought experiment, the framework we're going to explore offers a staggering new lens on human consciousness. We're going to break down the very nature of truth, climb from the fourth dimension all the way up to the 10th, and explore how these massive cosmic structures actually relate to your everyday choices.
Right off the bat, the text drops this totally audacious idea. The ultimate of the mind is the essence of God, a pursuit of rightness. Just think about the sheer scale of that claim for a second. It suggests that finding true rightness in our everyday mundane lives literally leads us to the very essence of the divine. It's drawing this direct, unbroken line between our personal, daily struggles to do the right thing and the grand, overarching structure of the entire universe. So, what exactly lies at the absolute pinnacle of the human mind? Well, let's dive into that question by embarking on an ascent. We're going to map out a journey that starts with grounded, earthly human experiences and scales all the way up to a staggering 10-dimensional cosmos. By the end of this explainer, you'll see exactly how the author connects a simple, everyday human choice to massive planetary consciousness.
Section 1. The Pursuit of Rightness. The Dynamic Nature of Truth.
We start our journey not out in the cosmos somewhere, but right here on Earth, with the deeply personal pursuit of what the text calls a righteous heart. But here's the kicker, and I love this part. The text completely rejects a rigid binary rulebook. Rightness isn't presented as some simple, flat set of rules that applies the exact same way to everyone in every situation. No way. Instead, it's highly dynamic. The author uses these brilliant tactile metaphors to explain this. Think about grinding traditional ink for calligraphy. You add water, you grind the ink stick, but you have to find the exact perfect shade and consistency for the specific character you're about to write on that specific paper in that exact moment. If it's too dark, it's wrong. If it's too watery, wrong again. Or think of a beehive. Every single worker bee has a specific, unique hexagonal cell that it belongs to and operates from. Rightness is incredibly individualized. It's perfectly tailored to your unique circumstances, your specific cell in the massive hive of life.
Moving to Section 2. The Elephant and the Divine. The Limits of Human Perception.
But as we seek this highly individualized rightness and try to understand the broader divine truth, we hit a massive wall of human limitation. Because let's face it, our perception is incredibly narrow. The author illustrates this by bringing up that ancient parable of the blind man and the elephant. If you ask people to define ultimate truth or the essence of the Son of God, their answers are entirely limited by what they can physically touch. One person grabs the trunk and swears the divine is a hose, and they're totally ready to argue about it. Another feels the belly and goes, no, it's clearly a drum. Another hugs the leg and insists it's a pillar, while the one holding the tail swears it's a whip. The point here is that humans usually only grasp a tiny, fragmented fraction of a massive multidimensional truth, and we so often stubbornly mistake that tiny fragment for the whole shebang.
So the really crucial takeaway is that to truly understand the whole elephant, to step back and see the full picture without all that bias, you need a structured, progressive framework. And that is exactly what the text provides, beautifully laid out in this original table of contents. It maps out a deliberate, step-by-step ladder. Just look at how points 1 through 10 visually represent this climb. We move from the foundational pursuit of rightness, up through the stages of the mind and varying dimensions, all the way to breaking down the actual essence of God. It's just an incredibly systematic way to chart the uncharted.
Section 3. Dimensions of the Mind. Climbing from the 4th to the 10th dimension.
Let's take a look at how this builds into the author's intricate multidimensional ladder. The text describes spiritual realms not as vague, floating clouds, but as highly organized layers. Imagine a massive high-rise apartment building where the floor you live on is dictated entirely by the wavelength of your mind. We start in the 4th dimension, which is a post-death realm where spirits hold on to earthly desires and unpurified emotions. And yes, this includes the lower hell realms. Now, as a mind purifies and awakens to goodness, it ascends to the 5th dimension. Above that is the 6th dimension, a brilliant realm of truth and light, described as the domain of angels and those deeply seeking knowledge. This progression continues all the way up to the 8th dimension. And what's truly fascinating here, actually kind of mind-blowing, is that the text notes the 8th dimension is the absolute highest level where souls still retain a recognizable form. Meaning, up to the 8th dimension, beings still have a spiritual body with arms, legs, and a face. Beyond this floor of the high-rise, things get incredibly abstract.
And that brings us to the leap into the ultimate abstract. Because when we reach the ninth dimension, that spiritual body disappears entirely. It becomes a realm of pure, formless energy. The text identifies this as the domain of the ultimate saviors and guides of humanity. Figures like Jesus, Buddha, and Moses are said to reside at this energetic frequency, existing as pure spiritual light. But, believe it or not, it goes even higher. The 10th dimension is described not as individual historical beings at all, but as massive, overarching planetary consciousness. We are literally talking about the living, breathing mind of the Earth itself, the consciousness of the moon, the mind of the sun. It is a staggering scale of existence that's almost incomprehensible to us down here on the ground. This, right here, this is the true pinnacle of the mind.
Section 4. The Four Essences of God. Deconstructing the Divine.
Okay, so having reached the absolute top of this dimensional ladder, the literal peak of the cosmos, the author then does something incredibly helpful. Rather than just leaving the divine as this untouchable, mysterious cloud, the text breaks down the essence of God itself into accessible, universal concepts, and it does so without demanding you subscribe to any one specific theology. It defines this ultimate essence through 4 distinct steps. First, God is defined as light, but specifically as a sustaining life energy that physically and spiritually nurtures everything in the universe, kind of like photosynthesis for the soul. Second, it's a grand sense of purpose, an evolutionary driving force pushing the cosmos constantly toward progress and harmony. Third, it's the sheer power of creation, the literal ability to manifest reality and build worlds through thought and will alone. And finally, the 4th essence is universal laws, the ultimate standards of value and the underlying physics of the spiritual realm that govern how absolutely everything interacts.
Section 5. Discoveries at the Pinnacle, tying the journey together.
Now you might be wondering, how does all this grand cosmology actually help us on a random Tuesday? Well, this brings us full circle to the results of our initial, personal, human pursuit of the righteous heart. The author suggests that when you reach the pinnacle of your own mind, when you finally find that exact perfect shade of ink for your specific life, you make 4 profound discoveries. And notice how perfectly they mirror those 4 essences of God we just talked about. First, you discover self-awareness of yourself as an eternal life energy. Second, you discover your personal alignment with the cosmic principle of progress and harmony. Third, you cultivate your own internal creative power to manifest good. And fourth, you naturally acquire an intuitive understanding of universal laws and values. Basically, the text is telling us that discovering true rightness isn't about following some external rulebook. It's about aligning your internal self with the very elements that make up the fabric of the divine. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a thought to really ponder. Regardless of your personal, religious, or philosophical beliefs, the framework presented here is absolutely breathtaking in its scope. If you were to adopt this vast, multi-dimensional perspective, seeing your smallest, daily choices as ripples that connect upward through dimensions, all the way to a universal life energy and a planetary mind, how might that change the way you define your own rightness today? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating text with me. Keep asking those big questions and keep seeking your own perfect shade of ink.